welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Hollyween. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. Today we are going through my September wrap up, and for some reason I feel really disconnected to the books that I read in September. As I was going through and picking out, oh, what did I read last month? I feel like the books that I read months ago. There's even a couple I'm like, what was that about? So I don't know what that is or what's going on with me in that way, but yeah, it's kind of strange. But to kick things off, we are going to start out with A Place of Secrets by Rachel Hoare. And I'm not going to get too far into this one because I did go into it quite a bit in my August wrap up. Basically, in my August wrap up, I think I was like 3/4 of the way through this. So I did talk about it quite a bit in there. So I'm not going to talk about it too much. But basically, the story follows Jude, and she is an appraiser of really old books and antiques. And she meets this man who has a huge collection of these really, really old books from the 1700s. And she goes to his house, which is an estate, way out in the country, to appraise them, and she ends up staying with them for about a week. And this actually is the part of the world where her grandmother was raised. She ends up finding a connection to her family and the author of these books. There's some sort of I don't want to get too far into it, like I said, there's a mystery that kind of intertwines both families, and she's been having these nightmares. Her niece has been having these nightmares, and she finds out that the person that wrote these books also had these nightmares. It's just kind of an odd interconnection that happens throughout the story and kind of weaves it all together at the end. I gave this one probably about a 3 out of 5, maybe a 3.5 out of 5. I did like it, but I found that it was very slow going. Our author really builds the story, which is great, but sometimes it was a little bit dry. And especially her occupation is that she is an appraiser for centuries old books, and she goes into that quite a bit, which I found interesting on the one hand, but on the other hand, I felt like it was maybe a little bit too much, and it started to get a little bit dry after a while. So for that reason, I gave it about a 3 out of 5, but I did like the plot. The stories came together well. I know a lot of times when I was reading this, I'm thinking, how is this going to come together? I don't understand. But it all did, which sometimes that can be difficult for some authors to do. So I do commend her on that. And yeah, overall, I would recommend this one, but it is, like I said, a little bit of a slower, drier read. The next book that I read was Caraval by Stephanie Garber, and I absolutely loved this one. My friend Georgia and I did a Bestie Book Talk episode on this, so if you've read this book already and you kind of want to see my thoughts on it, then go ahead and watch that. It's about 40 minutes or so. We have a lot of fun in there, and we're just silly and stupid, and but we really both enjoyed it. And that is basically a review that is completely spoilery, so don't watch it if you haven't read this, but I definitely recommend reading this. I definitely give this a 5 out of 5. Absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait to read the sequel. The next book that I picked up was The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, and this one I actually ended up, I have my own copy of this, but I went to my parents' house for the weekend a few weekends ago, and I forgot it there. So I was halfway through it, and I was I did not want to wait for another few weeks to go back there again. So I just went to my local library and rented a copy of it, borrowed a copy of it, whatever. Anyways, I got a copy of it from the library so I could finish it. And this is a classic story following Holden Caulfield, angsty teenager who suffers from, I'm assuming, quite a bit of mental health issues. And it just kind of follows his life in about a week span after he gets kicked out of his school, and he doesn't want to go back home yet to face the music with his parents. So he goes on kind of this week, I don't want to call it a bender, but in his mind it kind of is a bender. He just is, he's a very odd character, and he's just, you can tell that he's suffering with a lot of mental health issues. Just the way that he thinks about certain things, he's very random. It's just, you can tell that he's suffering with something. And towards the end of the book, they did, what I took from that, I know this story has been decoded so many times, but what I took from the end was that his parents did get him some mental health help after he finally goes home after this week in New York. So I did really like it, though. I can see why it's one of the most famous classics of all time. I would say I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. The last physical read that I read this month was The Binding by Nicholas Wolfe. This one I struggled with a little bit. It's not what I thought it was gonna be, And I'm going to be doing actually a full review on this. There's going to be a no spoilers part and a spoilers part, so you can look forward to that coming up during the Hollyween days. But yeah, I'm gonna, without going too much into it because I am doing a review on it, I'm going to say I'm gonna give it probably about a 3. I found that the book like didn't really know what it wanted to be. Like I kept second guessing myself. I'm like, is this about a serial killer? Is it about a demonic possession? Is it about zombies? Like what is going on in this book? Which, I mean, that is great. Like that's a great, you know, kind of keep your reader guessing, but I don't know. I just feel like it wasn't really executed really great. I didn't connect to any of the characters. I did not care what happened to any of them. I was just like, whatever, like at the end, like you're thinking these people are going to die. There's maybe one character who's a young boy that you care about just because he's a young boy. But other than that, I didn't have a connection to any of these characters. And that's very odd for me. Like usually I at least care about one character, like couldn't care less about any of them. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one about a 3 out of 5. The last 2 books are books that I read on audiobook, and the first one that we're going to talk about is Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. And again, I'm not sure if you can actually see this. Hopefully you can. I don't know. This one is one of the ones that I'm not sure I really remember 100% about it. It's just so weird. Like I feel like I listened to it like a year ago and it was only a couple of weeks ago. I know that I did like it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. It's about this girl and she ends up going to this school where it's kind of disguised to the outside world as like a reform school. But to the people that actually go to it, it's all these people that have magically found these doorways into other dimensions and other universes, I guess. And they're so affected when they happen to stumble back into our world that all they can think about is wanting to go back to that other world because that's where they feel like they truly belong. So this school is kind of to help these people cope with this situation. And whilst this girl is there ends up starting to be all of these murders on the campus. So they're trying to figure out who is doing this, kind of is where the story goes, is who is this murderer, what's happening, like is this somebody from one of these dimensions that's come over, like all that kind of stuff. I really did like it. It was magical, it was whimsical, it was like kind of spooky, and I really enjoyed it. It was a 4 out of 5 for me. And the last book that I read this month, I read also on audiobook, and this was The Apartment by S.L. Gray. And I really enjoyed this one, you guys. This one was so perfect for the Halloween season. I think I might do a review on it. I'm not 100% sure because it's going to be a little bit difficult for me, I think, to do a review of an audiobook. If I had the physical copy, like I like to go through after I read the book and like make some notes and all that kind of stuff. So it might be kind of difficult for me to do a full-on review of it without having the physical copy. But I also would like to reread this as a physical book. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 5 out of 5. It's about this couple. There's a huge age difference between them. The man is in his late 40s and the woman is, I think, 24 years old. And one evening while they're at home and their young daughter is sleeping, they are the victims of a home invasion. The book doesn't start with this situation. When you meet these characters, that had already happened and they're both very, very affected by that. They are having such a hard time coming to grips with it. They're having such a hard time staying in their own home and they don't have a lot of money. But one of their friends ends up suggesting to them to do a house swapping. There's these sites online that you can house swap with other people. So they go online and they end up house swapping with a couple from Paris. So they get to this Paris apartment and it is absolutely not like it was pictured on the website. And it's just like completely run down. There's only one other inhabitant in the entire building. She is really freaky. There ends up being a suicide. There ends up being something wrong with this apartment and it follows them home. So it's a case of kind of, I think it's a case of a demonic possession in my opinion. I really, really enjoyed it. It was very, very spooky. I gave it a 5 out of 5 and I definitely recommend it for the Halloween season. Well, you guys, that is it for me today. I read 6 books this month, which is a lot better than the last couple of months. I was coming off of a reading slump and then I just kind of wasn't really doing much reading, but I have just like been reading nonstop lately. So that is awesome. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've been reading some good books. And yeah, definitely go check out The Apartment. That is probably the best book that I read. Well, see, that's one of the best books, but I also read Caraval and I love both of those. Like both of those, definitely amazing reads this month. Like so good. Definitely enjoyed both of them. Let me know in the comments down below what books you read last month and what books you're planning on reading for the month of October. I hope you guys are having an awesome day and I will see you in my next video. Bye.